March 14th, 2025. Fort Carson Parade Ground, 0900 hours. A change of command ceremony is 30 seconds from the moment when Chief Warrant Officer Daniel Mercer receives his final salute and walks into retirement with full honors. 400 soldiers stands at attention. 2 generals sit in the front row. A brass band waits for the downbeat, and I am standing in the third rank, ordered to stay silent, holding a manila folder behind my back that contains the exact documents that prove he destroyed my career to cover his own mistakes. He thinks I have nothing. He thinks months of isolation broke me. He thinks the ceremony is his victory lap. What the room does not see yet is that I am about to turn his coronation into the hearing that ends him. How did I force the truth through a system that protected the wrong side at every turn? That is the whole case. 6 months earlier, September 9th, 2024. I am Chief Warrant Officer 3, Rachel Landry, 12 years in, aviation maintenance. I run the quality assurance office for a battalion that operates $60 million worth of helicopters. My job is to catch errors before they become crashes. My record is clean. My last 3 evaluations say exceptional. My chain of command calls me the most thorough warrant in the brigade. On September 9th, I discover that Chief Mercer, my immediate supervisor, has signed off on 3 separate safety inspections that were never actually performed. The paperwork says complete. The aircraft logs say the work was done. But I pull the maintenance schedules and cross-reference them with duty rosters and find that the inspector listed was on leave during 2 of the dates and deployed during the 3rd. Someone forged the signatures, someone backdated the forms, and Chief Mercer's name is on every approval line. I do not go public. I do not send an email to the whole brigade. I follow the exact procedure I was trained to follow. I walk into his office with the 3 files, lay them on his desk, and ask him to explain the discrepancy. He looks at the files for 11 seconds. Then he closes them. He tells me I am reading the dates wrong. He tells me the inspector came in on his day off. He tells me to stop looking for problems that do not exist. I ask if he wants me to file the issue with the Inspector General. His voice drops. He says filing anything outside the unit would be a massive mistake. He says it would show I do not understand how the Army works. He says it would make me look like someone who cannot handle correction. I leave his office and walk straight to the IG building. I file a protected communication on September 12th. I attach all 3 files. I use the words fraud, falsification, and safety risk. The system timestamps my submission at 14:20, 3 hours. The IG office sends me an automated acknowledgement. They say they will investigate within 60 days. I go back to work. On September 16th, 4 days after I file, Chief Mercer calls me into his office again. This time, there is a counseling form on his desk. It says I failed to complete a routine report. On time, it says I demonstrated lack of attention to detail. It says my performance is declining. I read the form twice. The report he is citing was submitted 2 days early. I have the email receipt. I have the read confirmation. I tell him the accusation is factually incorrect. He slides the form across the desk and tells me to sign it. I ask if I can attach a rebuttal. He says I can write whatever I want, but the counseling stands. I sign it. Not because I agree. Because signing means I received it. Because in a system built on paper, refusal to sign makes you look insubordinate, and signing creates a document I can use later. I write received but disputed in the acknowledgement block. He files it anyway. That is the first piece of the retaliation sequence. On September 23rd, he removes me from my primary duty as quality assurance lead and reassigns me to a basement office doing administrative reviews of old files. He says it is temporary. He says the unit needs someone with my attention to detail to clean up records. He does not say how long. He does not say what metric would let me return. He just moves me 2 floors down into a windowless room with a desk, a computer, and stacks of maintenance binders from 2018. No one visits, no one calls, no one asks how the work is going. I am 20 feet away from my old office, and I might as well be on another base. On October 7th, he issues a second counseling. This one says I missed a mandatory safety brief. I was not notified of the brief. I check my email. I check the shared calendar. I check with 3 other warrants who were supposed to attend. None of them were notified either. But I am the only one who gets counseled. I sign it. I write, "Not notified, disputed" in the remarks block. He files it. On October 21st, a third counseling. This one says, I failed to maintain professional communication standards. The example he cites is an email I sent asking why I was removed from quality assurance. He calls the tone disrespectful. I read the email again. It is 4 sentences. It asks one question. It contains no profanity, no sarcasm, no raised voice. It is the most neutral message I have ever written. I sign it. I write factually incorrect, disputed. He files it. 3 counselings in 5 weeks. All after I file the IG complaint. All documented. All signed by him. I do not panic. I do not argue in the hallway. I do not send angry emails. I print every single counseling form. I print the IG submission receipt. I print my last 3 evaluations, the ones that say exceptional. I print the email showing I submitted the report early. I print the safety brief calendar showing no notification. I arrange them in chronological order in a 3-ring binder. The story they tell is clean. Stellar performance until September 12th. Sudden negative counselings starting September 16th, 4 days after the protected communication. The retaliation pattern is not subtle, it is mathematical. I keep the binder in my car. I do not tell anyone I have it. I wait for the IG to finish their investigation. 60 days pass, then 90. I call the IG office on December 4th. They tell me the investigation is ongoing. They tell me they cannot share details. They tell me to be patient. On December 18th, Chief Mercer announces he is retiring. His ceremony is scheduled for March 14th. The entire brigade is invited. 2 generals confirm attendance. The base photographer is assigned. A legacy speech is being drafted. He has 32 years in. He is walking away with full benefits, a pension, and a reputation as a disciplined leader who ran a tight maintenance program. The IG still has not released findings. I realize the system is not going to move fast enough. I realize he is going to retire before any consequence touches him. I realize the ceremony is not just a celebration. It is the moment his official record closes. It is the moment his version of events becomes history, and I am ordered to attend. On March 10th, 4 days before the ceremony, I receive a tasking email. All personnel assigned to the battalion will attend in dress uniform. Formation at 0845, no exceptions. The email comes from his office. He is ordering me to stand in the crowd and watch him be honored. He thinks the isolation worked. He thinks the counselings broke my confidence. He thinks I will stand silent because that is what junior warrants do when senior chiefs retire. But here's the thing. Ordering me to attend puts me inside the ceremony. It puts me on the field. It makes me part of the official event. And that gives me one narrow opening. The ceremony script is public. I pull a copy from the protocol office. It runs like this: National Anthem, Invocation, Remarks from the outgoing commander, Remarks from the incoming commander, Passing of the unit colors, Presentation of retirement awards, Benediction, Dismissal. The moment I am looking for comes during the remarks from the outgoing commander. That is when Chief Mercer will take the microphone and deliver his legacy speech. That is when he will talk about discipline, standards, and the tough decisions that made the unit better. That is when he will mention, casually, that he had to remove a warrant from a key position because she could not handle the responsibility. He has been workshopping that line for 2 months. I have heard him say it twice in staff meetings. He frames it as a leadership lesson. He does not say my name, but everyone knows who he means. That speech will be transcribed. It will be entered into the battalion historical record. It will live in archives forever, unless I interrupt it. I know what interrupting a change of command ceremony means. It is a violation of every tradition the Army holds sacred. It falls under Article 134, conduct prejudicial to good order and discipline. It is a court-martial offense. But a court-martial requires a hearing. And a hearing requires the chain of command to explain why I interrupted. And that explanation will force the folder into evidence. I am betting my career that the documents are strong enough to justify the interruption. I am betting the system will care more about retaliation than disruption. I am betting. The generals in the front row will ask questions. March 14th, 0845. I stand in formation in dress uniform. The folder is in my cargo pocket, flat against my thigh. The national anthem plays. The invocation is delivered. The outgoing battalion commander speaks first. He praises Chief Mercer for his decades of service. He calls him a model of discipline and integrity. He says the unit is stronger because of his leadership. Then, Chief Mercer steps to the microphone. He thanks the crowd. He thanks his family. He starts talking about the hard calls a leader has to make. He starts talking about maintaining standards even when it is uncomfortable. He says, sometimes you have to remove people from positions they are not ready for. He says it is never personal. He says it is always about the mission. And that is when I step forward. I do not shout. I do not run. I take 3 steps out of formation, move to the front of the rank, and come to parade rest. My voice is loud enough to carry, but calm enough to stay professional. I say, Chief Mercer, that statement is factually incorrect, and I have documentation that proves it. 400. People go silent. The band stops. The generals turn. Chief Mercer freezes at the microphone. I pull the folder from my pocket and hold it in front of me at chest height. I say, on September 12th, 2024, I filed a protected Inspector General complaint regarding falsified safety inspections. 4 days later, you issued the first of 3 retaliatory counseling statements. I have your signed copies, my evaluation history, and the IG receipt. This is retaliation, and I am entering it into the record now. The silence lasts 4 seconds. Then the senior general in the front row stands. He is a 2-star. He walks onto the field. He does not look at Chief Mercer. He looks at me. He says, Chief Landry, you are aware you just interrupted an official ceremony. I say, yes, sir, I am. I am also aware that I exhausted every internal channel and was ordered to attend an event where the outgoing chief planned to lie about my service on the permanent record. He holds out his hand. He says, give me the folder. I hand it to him. He opens it. He reads the IG receipt first, then the evaluation history, then the first counseling form, dated September 16th, then the second and third. His jaw tightens. He closes the folder. He looks at Chief Mercer, still standing at the microphone. He says, Chief Mercer, you are relieved. You will report to my office at 1300 hours. The ceremony is over. The formation is dismissed without benediction, without the passing of the colors, without the retirement awards. The crowd disperses in silence. Chief Mercer walks off the field alone. No salute, no speech, no legacy. I am escorted to the provost marshal's office. I sit in a holding room for 2 hours. At 11:15, a JAG captain comes in. She sets the folder on the table between us. She says, "The Inspector General fast-tracked their findings this morning, after the ceremony incident." She says, "They substantiated the falsification and the retaliation." She says, "Chief Mercer's retirement is being suspended pending a full investigation." She says, "I will not face charges for the interruption because the evidence justifies the public disclosure." She says, "I am being returned to my original duty, effective immediately." She says, "The 3 counseling forms are being expunged from my record." She slides a memo across the table. It is signed by the 2-star. It says, "My actions upheld the integrity of the system." It says, "I demonstrated moral courage under pressure." It says, "I am recommended for a commendation." I read it twice. Then I ask, "What happens to Chief Mercer now?" She says, "That depends on the investigation." She says, "At minimum, he loses retirement at his current rank." She says, "At maximum, he faces court-martial for fraud and reprisal." She says, "The ceremony interruption created too many witnesses for the system to ignore." She says, "The generals were forced to act because I made the truth public in a forum they could not bury." I walk out of the provost office at 12:30. I drive back to the battalion. My old office is still empty. I sit at my desk. I open the maintenance tracker. I go back to work. 3 weeks later, Chief Mercer is officially retired at a reduced rank with no ceremony. The IG report is released. It confirms every detail I documented. The safety inspections were falsified. The counselings were retaliatory. The timeline proves intent. His name is flagged in the system. His legacy speech is never entered into the record. The only thing that gets archived is the memo explaining why the ceremony was halted. And my folder. The one I carried onto the field. The one that turned a celebration into a hearing. The one that proved you do not need a courtroom to force the truth into the record. You just need the right forum, the right timing, and proof that cannot be ignored. Sometimes the most disciplined move is the one that looks like breaking ranks. Sometimes silence is surrender, and interruption is the only thing that keeps the truth standing. And sometimes the ceremony meant to crown a leader becomes the exact moment he loses everything. Because the system protects power until the moment power is forced to protect the system instead. That was the cost of his miscalculation. That was the price of ordering me to watch. That was what happens when you mistake isolation for victory and silence for fear. I was never afraid. I was just waiting for the microphone.